listening to Fighting Game Follies.
It's the #1 podcast for low-level player opinions.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Round 1.
Hello to all my masters, grapplers, set play psychopaths, Wi-Fi warriors, O-tours, tournament organizers, spectators, and everyone else in the such. Hot damn, I love that intro. Welcome to another episode of the Fighting Game Follies. It is your host, Griefer Games, Skyward Games.png, whatever I'm going by in my most recent tournament run. And today we have a lot of stuff to talk about. Not necessarily a lot of stuff, but like, you know, some more scattered out Evo news and just like news of the sorts. Fighting game fans have been eating very well as of recent with all of the news, trailers, updates, drops, and everything that have been happening. So you already know I'm here to go give my 2 cents on everything that is happening. Just give my whole perspective on what's going on as the such, and just like, you know, generally getting a stock for everything. I don't really have anything else to say, honestly. Let's just get right into it. And like, let's start talking about the first thing that I was supposed to talk about a few weeks back when it actually did happen. But Archivo, the Archivo announcements and like the Archivo Japan, US, and like everything that happened on first. So, really quickly, if you don't know what Archivo is, it's essentially a tournament that is run by Arc System Works, where they bring together some of the top players for the games of their choosing. This time around, it was Guilty Gear Strive and DNF Duel, and they essentially just have them compete in, I think, a top 8 bracket tournament. And it's really cool. It's really sick. I think the whole thing is really cool. It just goes to show like how much care that ArcSys actually puts into the games, and it's essentially like a smaller version of the Capcom Cup, but obviously, you know, instead of it being a Capcom fighting game, you know, most likely being Street Fighter, it's like whatever game that Arc System wants to show off. So the Arc Evo stuff was we got a lot of news for like things. We got a reveal and a reveal trailer for the third DLC character for Guilty Gear Strive, which we all like sort of knew was going to be Delilah, you know, the like prominent story character that happened in the Another Story for Gear. However, like as some people sort of anticipated, they're not going to be called Delilah, they're going to be called Bedman question mark, which is a name that I absolutely despise and hate. So for the purposes of like just me referring to her like anywhere, I'm not going to call her Bedman question mark. I'm going to like simply call her Delilah. And if I want to talk about like the old Bedman, the one in Extra, then I will talk about him by saying Bedman. So Delilah stuff, a lot of like interesting things for Delilah. Well, I don't necessarily want to say interesting per se, but just a lot of things about Delilah that like sort of happened, and like just the whole announcement and everything. Um Obviously it was at, I don't remember where exactly it actually like was announced. I think it was at the end, but all of her stuff sort of got like revealed and everything. Her character, and like it's cool. I think her character is cool. Just to go into it a tiny bit, let's actually talk about it. Um Delilah, Bedman, whatever you're gonna call her. She's a unique type, sort of like Faust, with a 2-star rating, which is really interesting because if I'm not mistaken, I think Faust also has a 2-star rating, meaning that she's going to be pretty harder to play. But yeah, he also has a 2-star rating, so maybe it's just the unique characters that have 2-star ratings. I guess we'll have to get like a third one to actually see. But Delilah, 2-star character, says that she's easy to use. Not a good bit of stuff was like shown off in terms of her like gameplay trailer and everything. However, we weren't really able to glean a whole lot about it because from what it seems like, she sort of seems like a reverse puppet fighter, which I think that idea is kind of interesting, but it's sort of hard to grasp with like everything that we had gotten from the video and whatnot. So I don't really know what to necessarily think about the character itself. Looking at the like character page thing here, it says error-prone guardian machine. The bed can continue to act independently after Bedman's death due to the program he entered in his last moments. It's going over more story stuff. Although she possesses incredible power and unparalleled cognitive abilities, she is well aware that she lacks an understanding of current events and the subtleties of others' emotions. She also realizes that she is lacking in experience communicating with others, but she finds herself frustrated at her own childlike emotions despite them being natural to her age. I think she's like 12. I don't remember. Um but yeah, I think her character is sort of cool from like the little bits and pieces that we do get. Like I said though, it is really weird because she sort of seems like a reverse puppet fighter in a way, because a lot of the things that like we actually do see, it's like sometimes the bed is on frame, other times the bed isn't, and or like sometimes the bed is there with her, other times the bed isn't there, so maybe it's like prone to have to stay in a certain distance to Delilah, or like maybe she moves on her own, I don't know. Like we can't really get a lot in terms of like what actually makes the character itself unique as opposed to like any other character. Obviously, it does seem like he's losing his old time mechanic and like the time rewind stuff that he got from Xrd, which like it makes sense since a lot of the characters did get a more dumped down moveset from how they actually played in like their older titles. But yeah, I'm not really getting a whole lot in terms of like context for the gameplay and everything. I guess we'll just have to see when the character eventually drops, which the date is watching the video right now because I do not remember. April 6th. Yeah, April 6th. All right. Which is actually not too far from now, which is actually all right. That's actually really good. So yeah, I guess we'll be getting more info on the character April 6th, or like they'll probably drop a like character trailer like breakdown thing that they normally do with all of the DLC characters. So I'll be on the lookout for that so that I can understand more about it. A new stage also is coming with her as well. From what it seems like, it seems decent enough. I am one for like good looking stages, but like this isn't really like throwing any like wild curveballs or anything at me. It just sort of seems like a gear stage. Like the other foresty one. I can't remember the name of it, but it sort of reminds me of the other foresty like stage that we have there. But that's cool. Delilah's cool. The other thing that actually also, well, two other big announcements got revealed at Arc Evo. First being that there is going to be a season 3 pass, like that's greenlit, it's in the works. We don't know anything about it. We'll probably get some more news about it at like Evo, but we know that a season 3 is happening. We know that a season 3 has been greenlit. We know that it's going to be coming around whenever. So that means more balance patches, more everything. We're not going to be getting a title update yet. So I'm actually really glad for that. But there's two other things that I'm really stoked for. One, if you were there at Arc Evo and there's like videos of like people showing it off, if you were there at Arc Evo, there is another character that got released at the end of Delilah's trailer. And if we all saw it, which you probably didn't, which is why I'm talking about it now, everyone that saw it knows that Asuka, they're doing what they did last time with the Delilah announcement. And basically, Asuka R. Kretz, the main antagonist for the entirety of the Guilty Gear series, will finally be coming to the game after decades of not being playable. And I am very happy. I'm ecstatic for this. And there's a couple of reasons why. First, I'm just a big Asuka fan. I think he's really been really cool. I think he's been super cool from the start, and I've always wanted to learn more about him, more about his motivations and everything. And with this, we're not possibly going to get like a tiny bit more into that. And besides, like everything about his character is sort of already been finished at the end of Strive's story, so that's fine, whatever. But I still think he's really cool. And also, this has been the main antagonist for like literal decades, and he is just now making his playable appearance. And there's so many things that they can pull from like the catalog of stuff that he has done throughout the years. So seeing what they're going to do with his character, it's just super exciting because they can pull a lot of stuff from Strive. They can pull stuff from the other games, like actually I don't even think he was. No, no, no. I'm going on. I'm rambling. But I'm just really hyped. I'm really hyped for what could possibly be done for his character. I'm really hyped to see what can be done for his moveset. If I'm not mistaken, Rad Chad actually did a video not too long ago before he got announced for like an actual character slot, going over what a interesting moveset could be for him. I'll link that down in the description of this video. I found it to be really cool and interesting. He basically portrayed him to be more like a zoner type, where you had to mix and manage like projectiles and everything. You're able to stop them and whatnot. I thought it was really sick. Some of the things I didn't necessarily agree with, but others I thought it was a really cool idea, and I feel like it would also fit his playstyle a lot. But whatever happens, happens. This is essentially this is like just a run back of what happened. For those who don't know, in the gear scene, someone made a mod making Sin Kisk playable before like the actual Sin that we have in game, like with all of his updates and everything, was playable, and it was a really good mod. Like it was really good. I didn't personally like try it out because I just didn't feel like messing around with it, but it was still a really solid mod. I think it's out of date now, but still, if you haven't like given it the chance, go watch some videos on it. It was really cool. It also is just nice seeing like how people interpret going about the same concept, because while obviously the Strive development team was bringing in a lot of the new things, the developer was only really going off of all of the older stuff that we have seen from Sin, which wasn't necessarily a lot, but still. Um, so yeah, Asuka coming to the game, really cool. He's going to be ending off season 2. We got a season 3. Delilah is going to be coming April 6th. I'm going to be talking about that. There's a like quick little side note or like side tangent. This is like a running gag that me and my friends have, like when we're playing Gear, where I'm like essentially a main of every character, because every time a new character comes out for DLC or anything, I'm like, oh cool, I'm going to play X character, and it usually never like stems to this. Like throughout the entirety of DLC Pack 1, I would always say, oh cool, I'm going to main like X character. Let's actually see, because I can remember like almost remember everything that I said. Gold Lewis, I knew for a fact I wasn't gonna play Jacko. I was like, oh, cool, okay, cool. Depending on how they do her, like I might play Jacko. Never played Jacko. Happy Chaos is really sick. I was really interested in playing Chaos, and then my monkey brain could not handle that. Wasn't necessarily a fan of Biken. And Testament, I did actually say that I was going to main, and then I just dropped the ball completely. Bridget, I didn't say I was going to main, but I was interested, and I'm currently learning Bridget right now. Sin, not really my cup of tea, but I still said I was going to play a tiny bit. And yes, before anybody comes at me with pitchforks, the Sin video, the Sin Daisuke Dissect video is still in the works. I'm going to try and get that to you guys soon. And I'm probably not going to play Bedman because of the like unique character thing, but I guess we'll just have to see until we get more info on the character. And that's sort of like how it's been for like Gear's main lineage and like how I'm playing characters. And now I'm just sort of sticking to like Ram, Bridget, and Kai. But oh well. And really quickly before I end off the segment, the last like I guess Arxis related news that I should probably talk about is the fact that we actually have like more news on DNF Duel. DNF Duel has been getting like a huge renaissance era, like revamp and remake and everything. They're going to be adding new systems for the game once it comes out with a specific update that is also going to bring its newest character, Spectre. Just from the looks of it, I didn't play DNF Duel. I did have a topic that I wanted to talk about for one of the videos, talking about why DNF Duel flopped. Eventually, I never got around to it. I might still do that, depending on how well this update does for the game. But Spectre, she seems cool. She has a lot of like interesting stuff to her. She has 8-way omnidirectional movement. So, you know, all of those Spencer fans like from back in the old Marvel vs. Capcom days and everything, you guys like have an in there. Um but yeah, she seems interesting. I wasn't playing DNF Duel, but like depending on what this update does for other characters, because I did say that if I were to play DNF Duel, I would play the Ghost Samurai guy because he seemed really cool and also seems about as good as my like generic sword fighter in that I'm going to get as possible, outside of I think the not gunslinger, the mercenary. I don't remember. But depending on how like this update actually does, because it is supposed to be doing an overhaul for like like making an entirely new system for the awakening drive and everything. So that's really cool. That's really interesting. I'm going to be keeping my eye out on that, making sure that like I like give general updates to what's happening over there. But that's essentially all of the ArcSys news that we got at Arc Evo. I thought overall the entire thing was really cool. Shout out to Mochi for winning that. I know that there, like in the FGC, there is that end like sort of screenshot of him sitting down and just relaxing that everyone was like throwing around, like looking at this king on his throne, just like absolutely like living it up. But yeah, congrats to Mochi for winning Arc Evo. I like really cool, really good showings out there. Congrats to everyone who was out and invited in the first place. I can tell you right now, it was really hype. Like a lot of the stuff, obviously I didn't go, but I did watch the stream. A lot of it was really cool. If you haven't gotten the chance yet, I would suggest going out and watching it. Because there's also has been something that like stems from this, like from this entire showing in general, about like who's more right on the game that like some people have been talking about. I might give my 2 cents on that whenever the time comes, but that's for another episode. But yeah, Delilah, Asuka for Guilty Gear, that they're going to be the last two characters for the patch or for the season pass. We got a season 3 confirmed, so anybody like who or any other characters that you want, we could potentially get. So be on the lookout for that, and then Spectre for DNF Duel, which is also really sick.
Round 2.
So next up on the chopping block, we got a lot of more Tekken 8 news. I'm kind of glad that they're rolling out the character trailers and everything like weekly, since this does give me a lot of time to talk about like the character trailers and whatnot, and not just like cover them in their own separate segments when they come out like week by week, especially when they don't necessarily fit the theme for the episode that I'm going for that week. If I'm not mistaken, I did say I was going to talk about them like tri-weekly, so like every 3 weeks whenever a new character trailer or like whenever three character trailer drops, then I was going to talk about it then. But honestly, I might just like wait until a lot more Tekken 8 news drops instead of just like characters in general, because like I've been saying before, I'm not necessarily like fond of the super high rushdown, high like damage and like just high aggressive like orientation that Tekken 8 has been going for, as I feel like it doesn't necessarily give the defenders anything to do outside of like just block or like get out the way of an attack. But I digress. Three characters were shown off: Paul, Law, King, and another one. But like I just said, I'm going to cover that like when we get a lot more Tekken 8 news for that to happen. So I guess we should just go ahead and like actually talk about like all of the Tekken 8 stuff that was shown off. Starting first with Paul. Um, I'm not really, and also forgive me because I'm not necessarily like a big Tekken person, but Paul so far he I guess seems like what Paul would play like. I'm not really knowledgeable on Tekken to begin with, so I'm sort of just going off of like all of the tiny bits and stuff of like content that I've seen like prior to like me actually playing Tekken, which wasn't really a whole lot. Um, he seems cool though. Like Paul, I can't really. He seems kind of goofy. He seems kind of cool. Um, he was also one of the characters that they did in fact show off on like the general announcement trailer that they did for Tekken 8 as well. So yeah, seems a lot more to be like a more um, what's the word that I'm looking for? Like beginner friendly character. So like I guess this would be like your starting point if you want to I guess play the game. The thing that kind of blows though is they got rid of my man's I don't know what the like name of the like the haircut is, but I know back in like the older titles, the bro had like the big like Polnareff style like top hair. It was very top heavy and it was very cool and I liked it, but they got him like with a normal cut now. Um Outside of that, I think like it's pretty cool. Like bro's looking good. He's looking good. Um, that's really all that I can say. Like game looks good. Game has him looking really good. So I'm sort of glad that he's here. Next up, I guess, like, we can go next up. King. Now, I'm not a grappler person. I'm not a grappler person in the slightest. However, and I shouldn't even be saying comma here because I'm not gonna be playing King. But however, King looks sick. Like King right here. This is the dude. This right here is when he says King, he is King. Like Tekken 8's doing him really well right now. Like, and they're really leaning like he was already like a wrestling like just like grappler based like character, but like they're leaning incredibly hard into it now, which is insane. Like he still has a lot of the stuff that he's had in Tekken 7 from like the stuff that I've seen. But like, dude, this character looks grimy. Like this is insane. I like he just looks good. He looks sick. He looks fun. And I can't really like you guys have to see like the videos to like see what I'm looking at right now cuz like when I say this man is like beluga whaling, like he's beluga whaling and that's not even a sentence. That's not something that you normally say. But King, he's flown a lot more into his heavy wrestler archetype. If I remember correctly, I think someone said like uh King's like playing a more like good boy game or it was something like making a joke like King's the type of dude to like make sure that when he's like about to pile driver you, he's not you're not gonna like break your neck and then there's somebody else who's not like following the safety procedures of a standard grab. But King, he looks good. He looks solid. Not really a whole lot to like really talk about because I'm not really a grappling player, and like I said earlier, I'm not like a Tekken player either. But you know, I am like going to be checking out this game and like keeping a closer eye on it. And I guess the last guy that we can talk about here, Martial Law. Now, Law is like every fighting game it has to have like a Jackie Chan like stand in for like cuz you need to have a Jackie Chan stand in for like every fighting game and I really do enjoy it. Um Something interesting here, and this is something that Roofmonger actually pointed out, is on top of like his like normal stuff that he's kept from like the older games, it also seems like his nunchucks are going to be a lot more of a prominent figure in his gameplay style, and that is one of the like things that I actually was able to pick up on, and like looking back at all of the old Tekken 7 footage and everything. But his nunchucks are like a tiny bit more prominent. They're like more there's more moves oriented towards them, which is really sick. There's even like a drive like rush or whatever it's called, like mechanic to or not mechanic, but like there's like impact moves using the nunchucks as well, which is really cool. So, which is also sort of like I guess working more towards like the Nina thing that I talked about when I like talked about her, which is like oh they might actually be like moves instead of just like things that it's my thought process is weird, but they seem to be a lot more active in terms of like being in the overall move set, which is interesting. Like it's a I guess a interesting way to go about like actually designing the characters now because you're adding more. Well, I mean, obviously Tekken 8 was going to be adding more towards the characters and everything, but like it's adding a lot more in terms of like weapon personality and everything for what the character is able to do. Which I am a fan of like I am a fan of bringing in like a character's weapons and having their like personal flair shine out in how they use said weapons or their weapon of choice. I'm a big Ruby fan, so like, seasons 1 through 3, like that was essentially what we've like all talked about. But I digress. King, he looks good. Marshall looks good. Paul looks good. Depending on like who else they show, because like I said earlier, I'm a Lucky Chloe player, so like if she somehow does get into Tekken 8's base roster, then that's a day one buy for there, so I can like actually try and play her some more. Like if not, then maybe as like DLC, and then once again I'll like still try and play her. But if anything, if not, I'll probably play like maybe Paul and then a Mishima. Like I don't know. I still have to like sit and think on it and like for or like get more character trailers and announcements and like see what everyone is actually like rocking with and like see what's going to be a really good like beginner friendly character. But yeah, all of the characters for the Tekken trailers looking pretty solid. They're like looking pretty standard. We're probably going to get more like mainstay cast for like the next couple of months, probably until like Evo, where we get like a demo or something, or like maybe some more like big news on that. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see until Bandai is like just ready to drop some more stuff.
Round 3.
Alright, so the next and final thing that I guess is up on the topping block, since I sort of ran through all of the news that I necessarily wanted to talk to that happened throughout this week. I guess like I should actually take some stock and like talk a tiny bit about something that I was really interested in, being Your Only Move is Hustle, also known as Yomi Hustle. And Yomi Hustle, like I'm first off, I know that this is a super huge departure off of like everything else that I was talking about for the like this episode, but I feel like I probably wouldn't have found the time to talk about Yomi Hustle unless I had like put it in its own episode, and I didn't necessarily want to do that yet because I feel like it would be better suited for like just an indie fighting game episode in general. And really quickly, if you guys like have any other like indie fighting games that like I should check out or like think I would find interesting or anything, then like please let me know. But like Yomi Hustle is really interesting. I already talked really well about like it in general, like in the off times that I did mention it, but after it like being released and everything, I feel like this game is like really revolutionary in a sense, and that being in the fact that it gives you all of the tools to like essentially come up with a game. It's like the best way that I can describe it is like if I say that fighting games are like chess, and like they're like the most like one to one like in terms of like chess. You plan out a move, you make that move, you respond to your opponent's move. That's like the gameplay loop back and forth, right? It's just a very hyper stylized version of chess. Yomi Hustle essentially gives you every piece possible, like on an like a super huge board. It gives you every piece possible, every move that you can make, every move that your opponent can make. It's so like the it's so interesting how like despite it like still being like falling under the category of being a fighting game, you fight another person, bring that opponent's health, like your opponent's health down to zero and everything. It gives you all of the tools necessary to like plan out and formulate a strategy. So it's essentially like hyper hyper tactitional like a fighting game. It's so interesting. And like another thing that I really do find like really interesting about it is the fact that it takes out all of the executional like it takes out all of the executional like barriers that like normally come with a fighting game or like being good with a fighting game. So if you have like a like let's say a like really basic string, and I'm gonna like use Street Fighter for this example here. Let's say you have a really basic string of like um medium kick into fireball or like medium kick tatsu, right? Like some people, and I mean like some people being like people who don't normally play fighting games, they might have like trouble going from the medium kick into the fireball or the medium kick into the tatsu or like let's just change it a tiny bit like medium or I don't even know if this works or not, but like let's say for the purposes this does. Medium kick, medium punch Shoryu, right? Or like DP, whatever. Like most people might have issues like linking the medium kick into the medium punch or like the medium punch and then doing the Shoryu input afterwards because it's like such a foreign thing, we don't normally do it. But in Your Only Move is Hustle, like or Yomi Hustle, which I've been calling it, there is no like executional barrier or anything that like you're really stifled by. It's just a matter of like, oh, can you see it on the board? Can you link it into it? And then like if you are able to, then like boom, you're able to do it. It's just so it lays out all of the building blocks and everything that you need in order to like make a game plan and like like I'm not going to lie because like when I like was first messing around with it, it was very like overwhelming in a sense, but like once you understand, like once you get a grasp on like all of the mechanics and everything, and by mechanics I mean like just linking all of this stuff, like your defensive options, like your like aerial options and everything. Like once you get an understanding of the system, how things operate and everything, it like you just start you just go. You just you're continuously like just going and going and like formulating more strategies on the fly. And in a sense, like, and this is going to be a very weird comparison. Well, I mean, I did just compare like fighting games to chess, but like in a sense, it's also like very reminiscent of something like Fire Emblem or Advanced Wars, which like I guess doesn't really make like, or it's not like all too hard to believe since like Fire Emblem and Advanced Wars are like sort of similar, and like it man, they just all everything just has a basis like back to chess, which is like insane to me. And just the fact that like it takes out the executional process of like being good at a fighting game is also something that I feel like needs to be looked at more, because right now in terms of like figuring out what we're going to do in terms of like lowering the executional barrier for fighting games is like, oh, simple commands or like simple inputs or like giving us a simple or easy mode for like a game right now. Honestly, that might, like, so far that's the only option that we can really like make. But as we see with games like Yomi Hustle, Street Fighter 6, and like other things in the past that have tried to like make these systems like, be like entryways into understanding the game, like there are obviously other ways and like other avenues that we can go about actually making like a simple mode or like a simple like thing in order to make the game a lot more like understandable and easier for like people or like newcomers. But ultimately that's still not going to change the like fundamental like issue of like the executional barrier. But like obviously, things like Yomi Hustle, it does make it a lot bit easier. I just think it's really interesting, and I think like we sort of need more games like this that are going to like try and like reinvent how we actually do things with like, actually inputting stuff, which like there isn't really a whole lot of like ways that we can change that. But like I didn't necessarily think that just having everything laid out and choosing an option was like an option that we had in terms of like executional like wise. And obviously this isn't going to work in like a mishmash system. Like I can't have like traditional fighting game controls on top of like the controls that Yomi Hustle like gives you of just laying out everything. And when I say lay out, I don't just mean like, oh, you do a button and then like the button plays. Like I mean it gives you full reign and control over everything, from like the very minute ways of like how your directional influence will like influence how like you move. And I mean like it puts it down to like the most like tiniest of details. It's very in depth and very like just like hands on. It's sort of like making, I don't want to say like making a fighting game, but it's sort of like you literally like are crafting your game plan like as it is happening, and it's a very interesting process to watch. And like it's also sort of like I guess like brings out a lot more of the like mathematical side of things as well in terms of like fighting games. And man, I'm just relating FGs back to like everything, dude. But I just think it's very interesting how like this is sort of not necessarily reinvented the wheel, but like given us a new perspective on how the wheel can actually be looked at. And I sort of want to do like a more in-depth look at this as well later on, probably when I'm like I'm experienced in fighting games, but like obviously I'm not like a top dog. That's the whole like thing of this podcast. It's getting a low level like FG player's opinion on things and everything. But like maybe someone like out there, someone who's like way higher of like caliber of voice or something, who might be watching this, like looks at Yomi Hustle if they haven't already, or like just like threw it away as like just some off-brand like gimmick or something, like actually doesn't go and gives the game like a deeper look and really see like what I'm like trying to convey here, like albeit horribly, but still I'm trying to convey the message that like being able to look at the wheel and reinvent it like this might be something we should probably spend a tiny bit more time into. And it has done like good things for us, like for example the birth of rollback netcode that was done by the like or that was done by Tony Cannon after like re-looking at how delay based netcode was like horrible and like wanting a fix for that. Like Yomi Hustle's thought of, oh yeah, we should change how things are inputted and whatnot. Like obviously that was what the game was going to be meant for at the start, but that ultimately came from the idea of what it wanted to be, and then like that sort of birthed from it. I think we should probably just look more at like how systems are actually like done and messed around with like more often than not, which I feel like should be like something that we take stock in. I want to say like maybe every like 5 or like 10 years cuz like fighting games do last for a good while depending on like the genre and everything. So I don't want to say like oh yeah every year there needs to be a game that like try and reinvent something or like tries to like look at it differently. Like maybe every decade we try and get something like Yomi Hustle that like looks at the wheel and like says, "Oh, okay, cool. Let's like change this up or like let's do this differently." And even if it's bad or like even if it isn't something that's like more than desirable, we can still use that as like, okay, what made this system fail or like how can we change this to like be a failing system into a lot or like less of a failing system. Which even then games are starting to do now of like how I said earlier, DNF Duel. That game was very stale and didn't get like any patches or anything for a good while and then just like out the woodwork when a lot of people thought the game was dead, boom, Spectre drops, boom, like just like oh hey, we're going to be reinventing and like changing the game up. So I don't know. I don't really know what I'm trying to like say here. I just think that we should take time to look at all the stuff that like how far we've come, see if anything can change. If not, all right, let's look at something else and like see if that can change. Let's just be like not hyper vigilant of everything that we do, but like sort of let's just constantly be keeping in mind like how or like maybe something can like be improved on or anything. But that's all that I really have to say for this episode for the Fighting Game Follies. This is more of like a mishmash in terms of like news and everything. So yeah, there's like I've said like at the start of the episode, like fighting game players have been getting a lot of news as of recent, which is really sick. We've been eating incredibly well, and like I like sort of predicted at the start of this year, we are going to continue eating incredibly well. So that's what I'm like. I'm happy to be along this ride. Like 2023 is most definitely going to be the year of the fighting game player. No matter what like game genre you are playing, if you're into anime fighters, you have Gear, DNF Duel, 3D fighters, potentially you have Tekken, traditional Street Fighter 3. That's going to be the biggest release like ever. So yeah, just I constantly say, just stick around, like see where things like go, like take off, and obviously I'm going to be here giving my like very low level fighting game player opinion on everything that happens. But that's all I can really say. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to like this week's episode of the Fighting Game Follies. It really does mean a lot to me. I really do like mean it when I say I love you guys for like tuning in and listening to me ramble on about whatever topic I decide to like talk about. It really does mean a lot to me. Check the description, check all of the like videos and stuff that I reference in this episode as well as the socials. If you want to like tweet at me anything, like I just said, tweet at me any games that you think would be interesting and that I should talk about or check out. There was one game that I think is like in uh I think early release right now called Two Slice. That was really interesting. I know that there's someone out there that is currently making a Marvel starter or a Marvel style 3v3 fighter that has like it's not just like Marvel oriented because I saw like Bridget was in it. Um, I also know that there was someone that also made like I remember seeing a tweet where someone was asking if they should put parries into their fighting game, but like I said, we're getting a lot of really like we're really doing well in terms of like fighting game stuff. It's insane. But yeah, tweet at me if you like find any like fighting games interesting or anything, or like just let me know like your opinion on it, I guess, or like if you want my opinion on it. I might even go back and talk about some like older games, who know, or like who knows. But yeah, that's really all I have to say. Once again, thank you so much for like having me like tune in and listen to me ramble and whatnot. I really do appreciate it. Follow the socials, follow everything. I guess like check out the description for all of the stuff that I reference. And I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you, and it's been Griefer Games, and I'm heading out.